Basi kwa hiyo kila kabila yani wana mambo yao kwa stand.
Tangu enzi za wazee huko. Wanaondoka wakishakufa hao wanakurudisha nyie. Yale mafundo lazima mtoto apewe. Ile ni lazima tulikotokea huko nyuma. Madam sisi wazazi wote tumefanyiwa. Lazima naye mtoto wako anasema na mimi sikubali mpaka mwanangu afanyiwa mimi na yeye ayapate.
Na zile tamaduni zinaleta heshima.
Ujue sasa hivi si wanawake bado tunaendelea na zile mila. Lakini wanaume
na wote kutailiwa hospitali.
Wanaume sasa hivi hawana.
Tamaduni sasa hivi umebadilika kwa kiasi kikubwa.
Kuna msemo wa Kiswahili unasema wakati ukuta uwezi kuzuia, utaumia tu. Haya ni mambo ambayo sio ya kusahau. Ni part of our culture. Ina shape watu na ni jambo la kufanya utafiti mara kwa mara.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the AIF Filmmakers Conversations. This particular year, we're doing it again. We're speaking to filmmakers who cannot be with us in person, but still have their films selected and screening at this year's festival. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Accra Indie FIlm Festival, which happens from July the 29th to the 3rd of August, 2024. I'm super excited to have here one of our documentary filmmakers whose film also made it into the festival. So welcome, Haikaeli.
Thank you so much, AJ. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be part of the Accra Indie Film Festival. And I would like to say that as much as I'm the only one that you're seeing here, I'm also representing Nicholas Kelvin. So Nicholas Kelvin is my fellow co-director and co-producer of the Mwanahiti film. So I would like to also acknowledge him. And unfortunately, he was unable to be here with us today, but I'll try my best and represent him. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you here, and a big shout out to Nicholas, wherever you are. And thank you for making this masterpiece that we have screening at this year's festival. So moving forward, we'll just read Haikaeli's bio. You get to know a bit of her, but she will do most of the talking. So after the bio, we'll get into who she is as a filmmaker and her journey so far, and also speaking on her documentary, Mwanahiti. She's one and a half of the directors, like she mentioned. So Mwanahiti is the documentary we are going to be talking about today. Haikaeli Gillard is a pharmacist and an arts curator based in Tanzania. She operates at the intersection of art and health as the creative director at Balcony Series, a youth-focused social initiative leveraging arts for social change, particularly in health and the creative industries. One of her notable projects is Mwanahiti documentary, which explores sexual and reproductive health education through the lens of the Zaramo rite of passage. Since its creation in 2021, the documentary has served as a conversation starter for the SRH education, reaching and engaging over 20,000 adults and students, with approximately 2,000 plus participating in physical screenings. It was screened at the 2023 Zanzibar International Film Festival, ZIFF, and is now part of the Tanzania National Museum's permanent collection. Most recently, it has been selected for the Accra Indie FIlm Festival in Ghana, scheduled from July 29th to August 3rd, 2024. Haikaeli firmly believes in the power of art and creativity to promote health, improve the accessibility of health information, and serve as a healing tool, ultimately benefiting overall community well-being. And she's here today to talk about Mwanahiti, which is in the National Museum of Tanzania. So congratulations on that feat, and also was also in ZIFF last year. So congratulations once again, and also congratulations for making it into the Accra Indie Film Festival.
Thank you.
Right. So we've seen a bit of you, bits and pieces, being a pharmacist and also in the creative. So like you said, you are in the intersection between these two different places. But when did you know that these are two things that, even though they were completely different, were things that you could merge to become who you are today?
So I wish I had a very like straight answer. But so growing up, I'd always been like a creative person. I had been very interested in fashion, things like creatively express myself in different ways, drawing and stuff. And even when I went to uni, studying pharmacy, I was very active in this artsy kind of programs. I would attend fashion show, go to exhibitions and stuff. It was something at that point, I merely look at it as a hobby. And so with the balcony series, as I said, once I started it, it was during my internship years at a hospital. And it just started as a hangout whereby my friends would come and spend time at our balcony. So we had a house that had a balcony that could comfortably accommodate up to 20 people or so. And I personally love cooking and hosting. So it just started as just hosting friends, coming for food and drinks and chatting and just discussing all these different things that are happening. And it was during that time I noticed that we more or less have the same conversations. People are searching for jobs. People are trying to like find their identity in career. People are like doing all these different things. And even though we are at different places in our lives, there is a way that once we came together and had these conversations, sometimes we may come up with solutions, or be like, oh, I don't exactly have the answer to your problem, but I know so-and-so who maybe can give you an answer. So that's how Balcony series started. And I saw that this could be a way that people can come together and meet and have conversation and discuss different things. So by then it was very informal when I started it. And then so we would just go as how the wind would take us. So we would do like these sessions, these series, maybe once in a week, sometimes once in a month. And then we would just feel it out. And we'd be like, what is happening this month? And then one phenomenal thing that actually led me closer to the career path I'm in today, it was in March 2020, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was close to Women's Day. And I was talking to one of my close friends, and she told me like, one of a very good friends, she's called Aika, also she's also my namesake. And we're like, we need to do something for Women's Day. And then she was like, I know this film, which I think if we screen it, it will be a very nice film for the theme of Women's Day. And we're like, oh. So I didn't even know the film director. So she's like, yeah, I know the film director. This movie was created, She kind of like tell me the backstory of the film. It's like a film talking about gender empowerment, a lot of things that were happening. And I'm like, okay, I will connect you to the person, the filmmaker. And it happened to be the awesome Amil Shivji. If you know Amil Shivji, he's a very great, renowned Tanzanian filmmaker. He's just amazing. So they made this film. It's called Aisha way back in collaboration with an NGO called Usikwaza in Tanzania. So Aika, this is another Aika Kirei. Aika connected me to Amil, and they agreed to screen the film. And they also, the NGO that owns the film, the Usikwaza, also agreed for us to screen the film. And then Amil came, and they also invited the cast, the film members, and it was such a lovely screening event. Very, it's very nice that you interact with a movie and then you start, how the bad guys plays a bad guy to an extent that you start hating the bad guy. And now is also there to tell you the story of how they were filming the film. So it was very interactive and very personal. But one thing that really came out of that is that I got into contact with Amil and the whole crew. They were very open. They were very welcoming. We connected. And then another time I bumped into Emil in a fashion show, and he's like, have you seen this curatorship, art and curatorship call? Like, I think you should apply to it. I'm like, who is a curator? What is this art management thing? And then I'm like, he's like, that is exactly what you're already doing with Balcony Series. You're curating all these experiences, and it's like edutainment. Like, you should check it out. And I checked it out. That was an arts management and curatorship course by Nafasi Art Space. I joined in, and during that course, that is when it came to my mind that art, as much as it was a hobby, it can be more. It can be more than a hobby. And I came to truly understand that for me, I feel like these two things, art and health, art and science, as much as we think they're very far apart, they are also very close. Like, they can be very close, and we can benefit from the both worlds. Art is very good at storytelling. Us as healthcare personnel, sometimes we need that good storytelling. Sometimes we can be very dry, and you just want to share, to do health promotion, and you are talking like you're having a class, and people are getting bored, they can't listen. So like these two areas can really interconnect. And it was through that program that at the end, I collaborated with Nicholas, and we made the Mwanahiti film. And it was around that time I came to a realization that the area of art and health, working at that intersection, it is what I'm very passionate about. And through curation, I clearly saw that this could be the way how I merge these two different worlds. And sorry, that was a long story, but that's a long short story.
Well,
yeah.
It may be long, but it's very detailed, and it has given me an idea of how it really transitioned for you. So it is indeed your journey, and it's led right into the documentary, which is Mwanahiti, which has been selected at the Accra Indie FIlm Festival. So, I mean, it's not everyone who is able to find out what it is they truly love to do, and also accept the fact that, hey, I can do this and this. People always want, in this world, is generally perception that, oh, you should be good at one thing. What are you known for? But you being able to merge these two, and they still even work very well. That's amazing. So congrats on that. And
Thank you.
So meeting Nicholas, and how did it become apparent to you that this is someone I really want to collaborate with? And how did you conceptualize the idea of the documentary in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much for that question. So during this time, so Nicholas was one of our, I was also introduced to Nicholas by Aika. So he's a filmmaker, photographer, and he has his own platform, which is called Picture Time. And he's very passionate about telling African stories. So during this time, after I had been introduced to Nicholas, I just got to understand the type of work that he was doing. And the first interaction, he had interviewed me about the work and the type of activities that we were already doing at Balcony Series. So we kept in touch and just interacting with each other's work. And during the course that I told you, the arts curatorship, arts management and curatorship fellowship at Nafasi, we would visit different people. And these are like creatives who are doing different things in the industry. So as we can go and learn from them. So one of the visits, we visited Professor Jengo. So Professor Jengo, if you watch into the film, you'll end up seeing him later. So Professor Jengo is an artist. He's a painter, very good one. And also he's an academician. And a big part of the job that he's been doing is the study of art and community art and everything around art. So he's very knowledgeable about African art especially. So when we visited his home, I was just struck by this one painting. So this painting had two it had two ladies. So one older lady, if I remember correctly, one older lady is like talking to a younger lady, and she had held something on the hand. And then I was like, I just kept on looking at it, and I couldn't really tell, like, what is this paint about? It just felt like it has something more that was going on, and I just couldn't decipher what was it. And I was like, okay, so what is this paint about? And he started telling us about Mwanahiti. Oh, this paint, you see what this lady is holding? This is called Mwanahiti. It's a torso bust made of hardwood, and this is it usually passed down in families. It's part of the Zaramo rites of passage. And this torso bust symbolizes a lot of things. Once a lady comes of age, through the use of this torso bust, she'll be taught a number of things about sexual and reproductive health education, how to carry herself, because by then she's no longer a child. Like, she's a woman, how to carry herself as a woman, how to converse, the mannerism and everything. She would also be taught different skills like weaving and stuff. And it would be like this whole moment. It's like a phase for her that once she comes out of that phase, she is no longer the child that you knew. And I was like, this is very fascinating. Given my background as a pharmacist, I'm like, we are always doing all these sexual and reproductive health programs, but I've never really got to dig deeper and understand how it was done in the traditional way. Some traditions had, some tribes or tradition had these ways of doing things. I roughly knew about it, but I never really had an in-depth understanding. And I was very perplexed. I was like, wow, I need to know more. And he was like, yeah, there's a book here. He showed me the book, and I was like, wow. Wow. It was such a great moment. And then it was also around the same time that we were supposed to make the final project for the training, because it was like 6-month project, and at the end you make your own project. So I also, around the same time, I had a conversation with Nicholas, and Nicholas is very passionate about history and some sort of like record keeping, #archiving. So he had also wanted to record or encapsulate the wealth of information that Professor Jengo had, but he just hadn't found on what exactly, because the man is a walking encyclopedia. So if you want to shoot something, you really have to lock it down, because he's also very interesting, a great storyteller. So you could end up with 10 hours footage of material, and you like lose your mind how you're going to edit them. So once I shared the idea, we're like, wow. So we're like, oh, we can do this. I can do with Professor Jengo. So that is when it started slowly shaping into this. The art and health is what I really want. And I can clearly see how this project is at that intersection. Nicholas is interested with like culture and archiving, and he had already been interested in Professor Jengo himself as a character. And he was like, oh, so that is how we slowly started developing the idea. At first we're like, feature film. We started like here. But also as time went on, we like kept on shaping the idea, like, let's do this, let's do that. We should have it balanced. So instead of having him talk, then why don't we also interact with the actual women who this is part of their culture, so that we are not speaking on their behalf. We need to know exactly what they also think. We're like, okay, so let's add this and that. What also if we add a cover, because this culture is just, there is so much work, so much passion that goes into it, and so many people are involved in the process, such that if you look at only one person, you really don't get a complete picture. And even as right now, when I go back and look at the film, I'm like, we need to do another one where we can get the view of the actual young ladies who are going through this tradition, because I'm like, that's a part of a puzzle that is missing. So yeah, that is like how we went into that story. And that's how once we concluded, that is what we were going to do. And because Nicholas is an experienced filmmaker, he took a lead on that. And honestly, I learned a lot of things from him, from his production, from his leading. And that was the first time for me being a co-director and a co-producer. And he had been a good teacher. I learned a lot. And he also was very open. So we kind of like merged our ideas. We like worked with how things were going. And at the end, I'm happy about what came out. Right now, when I look at it, I see a lot of things that coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I'm like, we did what we could have done given the time and our understanding then.
Absolutely. And one thing about short films and short documentaries is that they can be expanded. And that's the beauty of it. And I see so much that could be told. And even when you were speaking, when I watched the documentary, which I have watched, I was also wondering how it was from the lady's perspective. So you saying that it's also another angle that you can take, from someone's perspective where they are speaking about it. And this is very interesting how these rites of passages are very, very unique to a particular country, but they are also general, because even in Ghana, for instance, we have Dipo, which is also one of those rites of passages that girls have to go through, where they are also taking through sexual reproductive health talk, and just basically it's more about like fertility and proving that this lady is now ready to hit the society. So I really, really am excited for anyone who is watching this now, that no matter where you're from, whether it's you are from Africa, whether you're from anywhere else in the world, there are modes of things that are done. There are rites of passages that are unique, but they're also relatable. So head on over to the festival, 29th July to the 3rd of August, and watch Mwanahiti. So visit our socials. That's our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook, and also our website. And you get to see when exactly and where it is going to be screening. I'm excited for you to watch it because it's really, really enlightening. And like you said, the professor is a very good storyteller. I was watching him, I just felt like, no, this man has so much to give. But of course, time constraints and other things. So I hope that you do follow up and then we get to see more of what he has to give. Now, speaking on this particular topic, I can only imagine how sensitive it might have been for you to capture. How were you able to still stay within the confines of, okay, this is a documentary, I don't have to be emotionally involved in this storytelling? I don't know if the question is clear enough, but I can imagine how emotionally invested you were in this particular story. Also because, one, you are a young woman who is watching what these ladies have to go through and seeing what these women have dedicated their lives to. How were you able to separate your emotionality from, actually getting the essence of the documentary?
Wow. Okay, that's a tough question. AJ, what are you trying to do, really?
No, it's funny because as you were speaking, it just came to me that, look, I see how passionate you are about this topic. I see how passionate you are about what you do. So, you know how filmmakers often become very passionate and sometimes it overrules the work that they put out and they're not able to be circumspect. But this one was a very good look at it from a general perspective, not too emotional. So how are you able to separate these aspects?
So I would say we did a lot of planning beforehand, and we kind of like somehow we knew what were like the hot spots or where the controversy were, because those are the places that can like evoke emotions. So for example, one of the things that like these rites of passage are having a bad rap is that people are looking at them from a promiscuous angle, that, okay, so if you teach this young lady sexual and reproductive health education, it's like you're telling them, okay, now go and fornicate. And also historically, some of these practices were done simultaneously with female genital mutilation. However, not all tribes. So the culture of Mwanahiti is present in some matrilineal tribes that are found in Tanzania. So the Zaramo is one of them, Zaramo, Kwere, Zigua. These are mostly found in coastal and eastern Tanzania, Morogoro and coast. So when you're trying to get and look at a practice like this that it is embedded in a bits of layers, some of layers which are like landmines, you really need to understand what you're getting yourself into. And also, as of right now, the culture is slowly declining because it has been replaced. It has been replaced because then how it worked is that a lady would go into this rite of passage and would be in seclusion maybe 1 up to 2 years. Inside, she'd only be meeting female family members. And then once she comes out, she's most likely ready to be married. She'll be married young, maybe she's like 14. So you're seeing another layer of early marriage. So it's like you're going through things. However, what we tried as filmmakers, and when we were screening the films, what we tried is to at least prime the audience to understand that even though this was a practice that was happening then, and some of the things that were happening, we are no longer doing them right now. Things have changed. Ladies like me, we are up here doing our masters and studying. Like, the culture has changed. But what we urge you is to at least not judge this culture by the lenses of now. Try and maybe go a little bit step back and look at the lens of then, because by then that was what was happening. And if you maybe look at it a bit, you may not be triggered as much, because even if when you talk with your parents right now, they'll tell you, oh, during my age, maybe once you reach puberty and once you're done with standard 7, for a lady, maybe that was it. There wasn't anything else to do. So maybe even if the lady wanted to go and study, there wasn't that option. So maybe getting married, that was the option that was the one that made sense. So just like trying to also inject that objectivity, that let's not compare and contrast, and what we can do, we can agree maybe some of the things that seemed to make sense then no longer maybe make sense now, but can we still not throw the baby in the bathwater? It's like, okay, so this was what was happening, but what can we learn from this practice? And one thing clearly that we're learning, they really took this sexual reproductive health in a very holistic way, because once we started talking with the ladies, they were like, once you're interacting with your fellow female, your aunts and your old grandmas, they teach you more. You're just not taught about your menstruation. You're taught about mannerism. You know, during all that time, there's a lot of hormone flares. People tend to have moods. You are taught how to hold yourself with your emotions, how to channel those emotions. They may not say it that way when they're explaining, but that's actually what was also happening. So right now, when we look at how we're teaching sexual and reproductive health right now, it's very mechanical. It's like, okay, so this is your body, this is your ovaries, okay, this happens, da 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 da, and then this is the materials, the sanitary resources you'd need. But do we also interact with them, with young ladies, on an emotional level, to understand how that coming of age is also a very tumultuous moment? Do we also get to see that layer? Do we also get to see that layer on the behavioral side of you, and how we can help them? Because at that time, it feels like a lot of things are going on inside of you. You don't even know what is happening. You're angry for no good reason. You feel like you need to prove yourself. Like, this is when also a lot of teenagers start risky behavior, because there's just that energy. And because sometimes the way we are teaching it, we are just teaching it from a biological point of view. We are forgetting all these other social factors that come with our phase. But the rite of passage kind of like already knew this, and they were already embedding that in that way. So what can we learn? And like one of the things that were a bit emotional for us, people were like, we're not trying to say that maybe we are going to revive this tradition, but what we are trying to say is, what can we learn from it? What can we learn from it? And how can we take the things that worked and use them for now? So that had been like the dance that we were trying so hard to kind of like try and be somewhere. And then I think Nicholas did try to do a good edit, because once he did a couple edits and we tried to show some people, and we were like, we want to try to not like to almost be a bit neutral, but it was also not easy. It was a bit of like, it felt like you really have to clearly say where your stances are. And we were like, we don't want to say where our stances are, because our stance is this, just take it at what it is and see what you can learn from it. We don't have a stance. We do, but we're not going to tell you. You're going to decide for yourself. So that was a very tricky part. I'm happy if once you have watched, you said you felt like you could, you felt that our emotions didn't come into come in this. So I'm at least happy to know that we tried. So I hope the rest of the people also think that way.
I'm pretty sure they will.
We will try better next time.
Now, I'm pretty sure everyone who watches it, whether you're a man, woman, from anywhere in the world, not only Africa, there is definitely something you will get from this film. Yeah, I'm very sure that anyone who watches the documentary will learn so much from it. And like you mentioned, with Nicholas's history of archiving, there's a lot of, you can tell that it's more or less like, this is a piece of our history. What can we use this history to then improve our present? And then what will that do for our future? And it was very telling in the documentary. So I believe that anyone who watches it will definitely pick some bits and pieces of history from Tanzania and some of these other places that, these things were happening. So to wrap this interview up, you've taken us through the process. So I feel like I was there when this was happening, when the film was being made. But apart from that, I mean, what would you say has been the feedback? The fact that it was picked up by a whole country's museum, what would you say was the feedback from people around when they watched it? Were there any negative feedback that you'd like to share, or just give us a sense of how the feedback was, and then we'll wrap up with your final words to anyone watching.
Okay, so I would like to say so far the feedback had been very nice. It has been good. And I think it really gave us like the energy, it gave us like a pat in the back. So I think for us, first, we were very concerned that we present what the actual community, so in specifics, the Kungwi, the women who are passing this tradition, and the Kabas, we did not want to misrepresent them. So I think for us, one of the things that really made us happy is when the Kungwis and the Kaba saw the film, and they were very happy about it. They appreciated. So for us, I think that was a very great moment for us, because at the end of it, we also want, when we're telling a narrative, we don't want to be the people in between that diverge or like puts other things into that narrative. I think that was a very big plus for us. That is when we did a screening at the Bagamoyo. It's a Bagamoyo College of Arts. So Bagamoyo is part of the coastal region in Tanzania. So Bagamoyo is where we interacted with the Kungwi. The Kungwi that we interacted with are the ones that are coming from Bagamoyo. So just in case to translate Kungwi is usually female, either grandma or aunt, who would be the one responsible for teaching the young girls this sexual and reproductive health education. So that was a very big plus. Also, just a bit of some things, because when we screened there at the Bagamoyo College of Arts, just some students were like, it could have done better. This could have been this way. So I think also as a filmmaker, it's also humbling to hear that there are things that you could have done better. Most of the times, especially if you are critical, or once you just go and look at the project, you usually see things that you could have done different. So we have received some feedbacks on like, this could have been this way, maybe could have done this better, or this shot is a bit shaky. So we got those type of feedbacks, and we are always accepting them, because as filmmaker, there's room to improve. So for people giving us feedback, that is like, thank you, you told us, thank you. And I think last year, the biggest highlight was the National Museum of Tanzania recognizing the work that we did. So they invited us, and we had a ceremony that we ended up donating the film to the National Museum of Tanzania. And I would like to highlight some few people like Dr. Maligisu. He's been very key. He's a curator at the National Museum, and also another curator called Flower. They had been key into that process of the museum actually getting the documentary, because when we did the screening, and we were not expecting people from the National Museum to show up, and they showed up and they stayed in the front row. And it happened that Maligisu, who is the curator at the National Museum, he also did a lot of research on like Mwanahiti practices. So when he came, he also just brought all that knowledge with him. So it was very nice, and I think it's gonna be the beginning of what more could come, an extension of the project. And many other things. I think from there we can just work on what we could do next. We are also very fortunate to be part of Simulizi Festival. So Simulizi Festival is a festival by MEMA Africa. It's an NGO in Tanzania. They do a lot of sexual and reproductive health education for children in secondary school. So we were part of this festival. So it was nice because we brought in the film, but they had also organized other people who came in and share about sexual and reproductive health education. They brought in different menstrual kits and stuff. So I think for us as filmmakers, that what highlighted is that once you have a film of this kind, or maybe a film that is like passionate about another topic, you don't have to do everything on your own. So we're bringing in this, and other people can complement what we are already bringing. So I think that was also a very good highlight. And lastly but not least, we were also part of the lineup for Zanzibar International Film Festival. It was a wonderful event, going there, screening at ZIFF. I had gone to ZIFF before, and I was like, I would really like one day for Mwana Hiti to screen here. So once we got that chance, I was like, Mama, we made it. We made it. So as much as we also made it into Accra Indie. So yeah, I think so far it has been exhilarating. And once in a while you're just thankful. I get very thankful and grateful that I've been able to do this. I've been able to put this film forward. And I believe that a lot of things are going to be coming out of it, and it is still a work in progress. And maybe in the future I would see a long form of it, maybe a theater piece, a feature film, whichever happens, wherever the wind takes us.
Listen, we can't wait to see it. That's the beauty of film. The fact that it starts with something small and then it just becomes this big, huge thing, and we can't wait to see what else it has to offer. So in your final words, anyone who's watching, why should they come and watch Mwanahiti?
would really like to thank the Accra Indie Film Festival for having us as part of the lineup. It's such an honor, and it will be a great opportunity to interact with another set of audience. And maybe, as you said, you also have this type of tradition, a similar tradition to Mwanahiti. You never know what happens. Maybe the extension of it, maybe we could be doing something collaborating with a Ghanaian filmmaker or whoever that is. So I think for us, that is a very great opportunity as filmmakers to showcase our work. We're really grateful for that. And so for everybody who is out there watching today's interview, I would like for you to make time to go and watch Mwanahiti film. First, it's very short. It's just like 13 minutes. So don't think about time. And second, you would also wish it was longer. So that's the only thing I'll tell you. I don't want to tell you more, but it is short. But once it's done, you would be wishing that it was longer. That's the only thing I'll tell you.
I can attest to it because I've seen the film and she's telling no lies. You have to see the film for yourself to understand. And to think that what we were discussing does not even scratch the surface of the documentary, you already know that there's so much to unpack. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Haikaeli, for joining me today to speak about your film. And I wish you all the very best in your future endeavors. We also want to say a big thank you to Nicholas, who unfortunately couldn't join us here, but we definitely felt your presence and we are grateful that you put this piece together with Haikaeli. So guys, that's basically how this particular episode ends. And I will see you in the next episode where we speak to another filmmaker. So from Haikaeli and me, it's bye.
Bye.